Welcome to the Focus Fundraiser, where we discuss how to focus on the right fundraising practices, because we believe that doing more is not the goal, and focusing on and doing what matters most should be the goal. And today I am joined by Amy Pokela, a seasoned nonprofit strategist who has been in those roles in leadership for organizations like Sanford Health Foundation and the Good Samaritan Society. So Amy, welcome. Super excited to have you.
Thank you for having me. I am excited to be here today.
Awesome. Well, okay, start us off by a little bit of your background. Tell me how you got into fundraising, what's led you to stay. Now you're a consultant. What does that look like? All of that.
Well, how I got into fundraising was when I was a young pup, I worked in politics, and the people that I liked the most were the fundraisers. And so I just wanted to hang out with them. And so that's how I got into fundraising, was that my need to be social that outweighed any like rational thought of what I was doing. So that's how I got in. And then when my time there was done, I had the opportunity to go work in nonprofits, and I've been in the nonprofit sector for my entire career. I've been blessed to be able to focus on impact and not shareholders for my entire life, which has been just so much fun. And so I've worked in organizations that are really small. I have been the only operations person in a nonprofit where everybody else was in a program role focused specifically on program delivery. I've been in organizations that are incredibly large. When I worked for the Good Samaritan Foundation, we were the nation's largest provider of senior care and services. And so we had 250 locations across 24 states. And so I have really seen both ends of the spectrum. I have been down in the trenches, and I have been up in kind of up in the corporate office area of fundraising. But I will tell you that one, there is one constant, or there's many constants, but one of the constants that's out there is that this is hard work, and that everyone is just trying to figure out how to do it more efficiently and more effectively to be able to drive their mission forward. So no matter what your role is, no matter what size organization you're in, know that other people are having the same struggles that you are here at this time, just trying to figure out how you're going to get it all done.
Hmm, that's good. So you mentioned one constant. What are some other constants, no matter the size, because you've worked across the entire thing? What are some other constants that you've witnessed and experienced yourself in
Yeah.
fundraising?
No matter how much money you raise, someone's always going to ask for more. There's always going to be a there's always going to be a leader or a board member who's going to say, "Why isn't this more?" So know that that bucket will never be completely full. There'll always be a new initiative. There'll always be a new program on the horizon that will require more funding. Another is that people are always looking for new donors. Acquisition is a universal. It does not matter your size. That people are always trying to figure out who those prospects are and who might be a good fit for the program. So there's just it really, the work doesn't change. It's just different by degrees. So instead of trying to find 10 prospects, you might be trying to find 100. Instead of trying to raise $10,000, you might be raising $100,000. But the principles, the strategy, the fundamentals of fundraising don't change, no matter the size of the organization. It's just a matter of degrees.
Agree with you more. So I'll tee you up for what I think is a softball. What are those? Uh,
Now if I biff it, now I'm like gonna strike out on like the perfect hit.
what are those foundational pieces? You said they're key. I'll throw one out at it's donor relationships. I mean, we continue to talk about that in fundraising. Of it's not automating everything. It's having automation be a multiplier of human connection, but it's human connection. So what are those pieces that you think are foundational?
One of the biggest ones is that you need to find people who have a values alignment with you. So one of the books back behind me is this book called the Nonprofit Management System, and it's by this gentleman named Stanley Weinstein. And Stanley has passed away, but that book, like that's one of the very first sentences in that book, is that you're looking for the right person at the right time for the right amount, kind of that whole idea. And so you're really looking for people who are going to have a values alignment with you. who are the individuals who already care about your mission because they're, they're attached to it in one of several ways. Your whole community isn't going to care about your mission, and that's okay. You don't have to have every single person in the community buying into what you're doing, but you have to find those folks who have a values alignment with you, with what you're trying to accomplish. And you need to look at how you can engage with them. And you need to look at how you can make that engagement meaningful. And so there are ways to automate that. There are ways to make sure that that you're getting in front of people on a consistent basis, but you also want to make sure that you do have that personal touch. I think that this was in one of the fancy magazines. So I think it was in like Fortune, where they were talking about the 10 most AI resilient professions. And you guys, we made it. We were number 2.
That's
Development
awesome.
fundraising was number 2 on the list. I don't remember what number 1 was, but we were number 2. So that human connection is, we know how important it is, and other people around us recognize that as well.
Yeah, that's huge. And I think another way to talk about what you were just breaking down is the donor journeys. Where at
Yeah.
in the journey is this supporter? Are they part of the community and they are value aligned, and so we just need to nurture them before they're ready to give? How are they a first time giver? I would say that that is donor journeys. Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, I break the cycle of cultivation down to 4 pieces just to make it more streamlined and to make it easier. So you're always looking for, how do you identify people? How do you engage them? How do you ask? And how do you steward? Sometimes you'll see that cycle of cultivation broken into some nuances, especially if you start dealing with like major mega gifts, that kind of stuff. But for most people, those are the 4 functions that you're really looking at. How can you keep identifying people so that we can keep bringing new people into the fold? How do you engage with people or groups of people? Let's not forget that you might have a segment group that you're working with collectively. An easy one to think about is your board. Your board, there might be some individuals that you're working with, but they're also a segment group that you're in front of, and a calendared pattern, so that you can build out messages that you want to deliver to that group, that segment. And so remember that that journey might be for an individual, or it might be for a collective group of donors. Another group to think about as a segment is event attendees. Your event attendees might be a segment of donors, and so you're making sure that you're communicating with them a common message, a common journey around that event calendar and that event cycle that you're doing. So that's one of those ways that you can think about working smarter and not harder, is how do we make that segment a journey as well. And so yes, donor journey is a really important piece of that. And with any journey, you're really thinking about, where are they starting? What do you need them to know? And what do you want them to do? And so you just have those 3 questions. Where are they starting in their relationship with you? What do you want them to know? And then what do you want them to do? And different people are going to be on different paths with that. And so it's, you can nuance that out. You can tease that out a million different ways, but don't be scared to tease it out with one to begin with. One of the things about fundraising is that there's a million things that you can be doing on any given day. You don't need to do all million of them. You just need to do the things that make sense for your organization in the time and the space that you're in right now.
Mm, couldn't agree more with that. We live in a time that we have so many opportunities. It can feel like if we spend too much time on one, we're missing out on others, and so that loss factor. But if we focus in on the right ones, it's okay if we miss out on some of them.
And every organization is going to have a little bit different portfolio of what those right ones are. And so yours is going to look different than the nonprofit down the street. And that's okay. That is, you're doing what is right for your organization at this time. And that is the right move for you, for the organization, and for the mission. And so I feel like there's a lot of people who just don't have, people feel a lot of shame in fundraising. I think a lot of people feel like they're less than in fundraising. Those feelings of inadequacy really come in. And I can tell you that those feelings come in no matter the size of the organization. So again, just be really confident and really proud of what you're doing. You're bringing money in. You're making sure that that mission is moving forward. That is an amazing, powerful thing that you are doing, and don't diminish it by trying to compare it to someone else's and feeling like, oh, but I don't do blah, 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 like, like Sally does. No, don't do that. Have pride in what you're doing and what you're accomplishing every year for your organization with your program.
Good. I think that's a lesson all of us can learn. It sounds like fundraisers need to hear it too, but I mean, all of us can learn about comparison traps and that. So I love that. All right. So let's dive into end of year discussion because we are quickly coming up on Giving Tuesday.
Yeah.
It's overall end of year giving right now. This often feels like a sprint to December 31st and trying to corral your donors into, donating before the end of the year, all of that. What is a strategy that you recommend that fundraisings can end this year with success and so they can begin next year with momentum?
Yeah. You guys, it's November. And so we're already into Q4. We're already a month through Q4. So one of the things that I would say to everyone right now is don't try to overwhelm yourself right now. If we were having this conversation in July or August, I would have completely different advice on how to approach year end. But because of the time and space that we're in, we've got what, 7 weeks left? Until the end of the year. So right now, what I would say is that you need to make sure that that you're hitting your marks and that you're really executing on the things that need to be executed on. First and foremost, you need to make sure that those appeals go out. You might have a paper appeal bundled with an email, bundled with a social strategy, whatever that is. Maybe you're in a position where you're only doing email. Whatever that is that your organization is doing, make sure that it is that it is really executed well. Another thing at this point in time, you're going to have people who are going to be making gifts to you. They may find you, through a variety of ways. Make sure that your online giving portal is working. Go out there, make a small gift to the organization, see what that donor experience is, and make sure that all the connections are working and that those gifts can go through. Right now, we're really in that check the box mode. We're not in the building a strategy, we're in execution mode. So you want to make sure that everything is executing well, that you're getting the letter out, that you've got your email strategy and your social strategy in place, that all your systems are working so that people can effectively get those gifts in. So if somebody comes to you and they want to start talking about a big, bold year-end strategy, have that conversation, smile nicely, put it in a file for 2026, and execute on what needs to be done for 2025.
That's so good. I think that's very powerful because so I use the term sprinting to the finish line to December 31st, but what you're talking about is instead of treating it like a finish line, treating it like a starting line of let's start 26 off well, where we can start to nurture these relationships so that we have a donor base that is loyal and excited to give in end of 2026. And so this is a starting line for the next 12 months. Would you agree?
Exactly. Exactly. One of the things that happens frequently is that every year nonprofits treat year end like it's a one off, like it sort of jumps up at them like they didn't know it was going to happen. You guys, this happens every year. And so, really looking at again, how can you systematize things? And so, what are the things that we can learn from year to year to make us better and more effective so that we can fold something new in next year? So it doesn't have to always be like it's a one-off that happens every year. You know it's going to happen. And so having those conversations early, making sure if you know that a system's broken this year and you have to just sort of band-aid it right now, great. Do that. Get it done. Get it over the finish line. But here in January and February, when we know that there's a moment to breathe, make sure you go back and fix that system so that it's ready to go again and it's ready to go again when you need it. So it's really right now we're in an execute mode, not in a strategy mode. Just be ready to execute.
Well, we'll have to have you on in July next year so we can talk about
I
strategy
have all
for
sorts of
26.
I have all sorts of thoughts on that.
All right,
Now
let's
in
shift over
November,
to,
right now I don't want to overwhelm you.
sorry.
Right now you need to be focused on execution.
I think that's very good advice for end of year is checklists and executing right now. Let's shift over to strategic planning because it's a piece that
Yeah.
you help organizations with often.
hmm Some of my
The
favorite
last
work.
thing any
I
of us
love it.
want, yeah, and the last thing any of us want to do is spend time on a plan and a vision just to watch it collect dust on the shelf. So What are some tactics? What do you see? What have you seen work well in strategic planning? Yeah, let's just talk about that in general.
Yeah. So strategic planning and annual needs fundraising go hand in hand. You cannot raise money year over year to fund the mission of your organization if you do not have a strong strategic plan. And then the inverse is true as well. You're not going to be able to have as strong a strategic planning process if your fundraising is not in a position of strength. And so that those two things just they work together in tandem. And so right now, if you're focused on fundraising and that strategy piece is kind of in the back of your mind a little bit, make sure that you're getting back to it. Also, I know that there's so much going on right now and there are so many unknowns right now in our sector. Anybody who's telling you that they know what's going to happen in the next 3 years is just blowing smoke. We don't know what's going to happen in the next 3 years. We also didn't know what was going to happen in 2008 when we went through that last economic downturn. At the end of 2008, when the markets completely crashed and there was basically no earnings to give out the next year in endowment funds, nobody knew what was going to happen then either. And so remember that your organization has some longevity to it. For many of you, that longevity might be decades, multiples of decades long. And so remember that your mission and your organization have weathered storms before. This storm is going to look different than the others, and the next one that comes up is going to look different than this one. But remember to hold steady and hold true to those truths that you know. You know who you're serving. You know how important your work is. You know how much people rely upon the mission delivery of your organization. You know who your strongest supporters are. You know who those individuals are who are going to want to support you. And on the strategic plan side, you know what needs to happen next. You know if that program needs to expand. You know if you need to add a community to your service area. And so make sure that you're not losing all of that in the urgency that's coming up right now, and make sure that you're still holding true to those things, because sometimes this might actually be the best time to make a bold strategic move depending upon your organization and your situation. But don't just instinctively just batten down the hatches and don't look out a little bit, because there might be some really interesting strategic moves that you can make during this time that's going to set your organization up for the next phase. So be cognizant of what's going on. Make sure that you're executing in the way that you need to meet your immediate needs, but don't lose sight of the fact that your organization is here for the long haul. It has been here for the long haul, and it will continue to be. And in order to do that, you have to have strategy, and you have to be making smart decisions about what's strategic, what's going to happen next for the organization.
I feel like the advice that you've given in the last 18 minutes is very much worth a year's worth of your consulting time. So thank you for giving it for free, Amy. This was fantastic. I always end with one final takeaway tactical question, which
Yeah.
is, what is one thing that every fundraiser should do today that you believe matters most?
Yeah. This is my number one thing that you should do today. Your hair is on fire. It feels like you can't make it another minute. Go out into your calendar for next year, block your vacation. Make sure that from that time frame that you know that there is a point in time when you are going to be able to have that moment to breathe and that self-care. And we all know that if we know that we're taking whatever day off, that it makes it a lot easier to get through today. Things are in a panic right now, but you need to know that you're going to have that time for yourself. And also, self-care is incredibly important. Remember to get that checklist, to get that list checked off, but also remember that you need to go home. You need to stay hydrated. You need to eat something green. You need to make sure that you're taking care of yourself as well. So that would be my number one thing for folks right now, is to remember to hydrate. I think that that's probably the most important advice for today, and to get your lists in order. And we all know that you know exactly kind of what needs to happen right now, because like we're in that checklist mode. So put together your list and start checking it off with a big glass of water. That's my advice.
Well, for those that are listening, that I hope that this is encouraging you to block some vacation time, which is huge, and take some self-care moments in your day. I love that. That's a fantastic takeaway. Thank you, Amy. If you are curious about how DonorDock can help you find clarity and build a strong donor base, you can visit us at DonorDock.com, and we will see you next week.
Thank you, everyone.